where the meetings are going to be. And with this whole debt ceiling tying into the European crisis, does this also entail them manipulating the gold and silver market? Obviously, they need as much paper currency as possible to rail down the cost of the commodity. And then secondly, with Greece, I'm in Illinois, and I read articles all the time saying Illinois is the next Greece. I'm so proud of the Greece people for standing up. When is it our turn? Why, Paul Joseph Watson said it best, a lot of people are just sitting on their computers not doing anything about it. When are people going to, wake up and say, all right, we need to look at these scumbags in the face and say, we're not taking this anymore? And then when are we going to bring up the charges of the Logan Act to Robert Gates? He was at Bilderberg. He and the NATO Secretary General are there. Obviously, they're getting set for World War III. We should do some articles or searches. I know I want to do something to let people know that Robert Gates violated the Logan Act.
Yeah, it's not good enough that he's on the way out. Bob Chapman, what about commodities and the debt ceiling?
Well, I think that commodities are going to continue to go up in value. And the reason why is that people will be leaving the stock market, and the bond market's at its height. And, the 3-month paper is zero return. There's no interest. And so you're going to have people selling, and they got to have some place to go with their money. And I think they're going to load up in commodities and gold and silver. The gentleman, Leo, said something about the gold and silver and commodity manipulation. And they'll try to do it as long as they can. But, I've been in markets for 52 years. And the market's bigger than everybody, including the Illuminati. And once it starts rolling, they're not going to be able to stop it. And the same thing is true with people finding out what they're doing throughout the world. Every country now has people who know who the bad guys are, what they're trying to do, and how they're trying to do it. And so they're going to run into tremendous opposition that they never expected.
But what about this question of when people are going to stand up, particularly in the U.S.? What is it going to take? I guess you've already said that's pretty much the food issue.
I think that is, and I know the government realizes that, because for the last few years, I do a military show, have for about 7 years, and all of the bases have been shipping in freeze-dried and dehydrated food for the last 3 years. And on the basis, the dependents are told this is where you have to report to if we have a situation where there's not enough food or there's riots in the city, because usually military installations are outside of the city, so to speak. And so we know that they're preparing, and all of you people should be as well. You should have freeze-dried and dehydrated food and a water filter and something to defend your families first. And then you can call Ted Edison at Midas and get your gold and silver coins, so you'll have something to spend if the dollars don't.
Yeah, I think obviously it makes sense to shift into it gradually over time. Let's go to another call. Alan in Texas. Are you there?
You guys, it's great to talk to you guys who are usually behind the scenes. You guys are more important than I think some people give you credit for, Mr. Watson, Mr. Dykes, and of course Mr. Chapman. It's always good to hear from you. You've got great information. I'd like to start off, if I could, with a quote by Martin Luther King that I think is instrumental in getting other people to wake up, and that is, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it." Now, when you see your friends and family members saying they don't have time to get informed, they don't have time to get involved, but they have time to sit in front of Dancing with the Stars or spend hours on Facebook, I think we need to chastise them. They're kind of pulling kind of like a cop out. We need to get more involved in our local communities, talk to people at barbecues, hold barbecues, pass out flyers at our corner stores, things like that, just to get people informed and wake them up. Well, Mr. Chapman, my question for you is, for those of us who are on very limited incomes right now, do you advise us maybe selling off some of our meager possessions to accumulate some money to buy into silver? Now, we can't all afford gold, but I myself have begun, selling off stuff that means nothing to me, like DVDs and just stuff that I don't need, and I'm starting to build that into silver. Would you recommend that for people?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea, and don't forget the food and the water filter and having something to keep people from charging into your house. Those are all important factors, and the answer is yes, especially people who are older, like myself. You sound like a much younger man. No comment?
No, I'm 31.
Yeah, I thought you were. But you have to go down that path. And even if you don't need what you're doing in the future, it's like buying insurance. You've got to have it.
Right.
I have it. My family has it. I talk to everybody about it. And it's extremely important. The answer is yes. Things you don't need, get rid of them. Buy silver, buy gold. There's gold coins you can buy for $300 or so.
All right, Bob, we're going back into break. We're going to take a few more calls on the other side, but obviously we've all got to take it up a notch, not only getting prepared, but being willing to stand up against this. We're back in the last segment of this jam-packed Friday, June 17th. Even with Alex out on story, not a day to miss. So much is happening. World War III on its way in, Libya heating up, the euro potentially in a downward spiral as Greece really on the map today and for the near future. We're going to go to just a couple more calls, one or two with Bob Chapman. I just wanted to mention Alex's powerful keynote speech at the Talkers Convention from last Saturday is almost done, I'm told from Rob Dew. It's going to be up for viewers early next week. We're also going to have exclusive video from inside the Bilderberg 2011 conference and the coverage that Paul Watson and myself did in St. Moritz, Switzerland, and a longer piece for prisonplanet.tv members. That's just some of the content coming up, rather. We have so much going on. Right now, let's go to a few final calls. Do we have Warren in Connecticut?
Yes.
Hi, your phone's pretty bad. Can you get a question out for Bob Chapman real quick, please?
How's that?
That's much better.
Okay. Thank you guys for all you're doing. It's extremely important in these days anyways, but I was just thinking a little bit earlier about the Endgame movie, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. I would like to see another one, Blueprint for Global Freedom. And, the fact of the matter is we already got that. We've got a Constitution. And so many of the problems that we've got going on right now, in my eyes, are pretty easily fixed by understanding the rule of law and whose job it is to enforce the rule of law, and that's the kings and the queens of this country, the sovereign citizens. When you have a sovereign nation, you have a sovereign person, you have a sovereign government, and the government is supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. And we've got the blueprint; it's a Constitution, and I mean, if we restore the law in our own lives, and then in your local government, then the state government has to follow. Then the federal government has to follow as well, because the states enforce the federal laws, the local governments enforce the state laws, and we enforce the laws on our own local governments. And until we start taking back our local governments, we're not going to get much of anything fixed.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, if we're not the solution, there isn't going to be one. And Blueprint for Global Freedom, it's a great idea. Your comments, Bob Chapman?
Oh, I agree completely, as you do. And it's good to hear that so that everybody will hear it. And it isn't just our job. It's all of your jobs as well. You've got to help us. We can't do this thing alone. And I'm talking not only to Americans, but people throughout the entire world. Come on, get on your horse, and let's get something going. whether it's pamphlets, as was said earlier, or Alex's tapes. Just get them out there. Well, we're making tremendous inroads, and it's a race against time because these people who are in charge are going to make a lot of mistakes. Believe me, they are. And each day we push them into more mistakes, and we're breathing down their collars. And you got to help us. You got to get out there and start talking about the things that we talk about on this program.
It's amazing, though, how obvious it is that they're vulnerable. They're not perfect people. They, too, could fall. And we really put the spotlight on them on this past week at Bilderberg 2011 coverage. And here in the studio every day routing out the globalist weasels who are arrogantly parading around in the emperor's lack of clothing. Thank you so much, Bob Chapman. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Callers, that's all we have time for. Back on the rebroadcast. Plenty going on. Infowars.com.